All right. So I was trying more for 12:30. I'm a little behind today, but excited to be here for our Wednesday Lunch and Learn Live and Be the Boss, Be Well. I'm Stephanie Pazniokis, and if you're new to the group, welcome. Um, so I'm really excited to share a little bit about something that I've seen lately. I'm going to share my screen for a moment, and let's see. Uh, There we go. So this is the latest craze. I've seen this multiple times. I've seen this shown on Facebook. There's these shorts that are nothing. And in fact, even in the you know, there's just no information here. Just hey, on more information, subscribe for more tips. This isn't a tip. A person can live off only dates and water. And then I've heard people, talk about this in multiple ways. There's lots of wonderful things in dates, right? But let's talk about for a moment what's really happening here and why this isn't as cool as they may look, very viable, right? So, it's saying that there are uh, there's lots of minerals, right? There's lots of minerals and whatnot in the dates, but even the most nutrient dense vegetables like kale or spinach or radishes or watercress, um, they all lack one or more essential nutrient classes that humans can't synthesize, that we can't make ourselves. That's why we call them essential vitamins, essential minerals, essential fats. These are things that have to come from our food. And there are essential fats in certain forms that we can't get from plants. There are certain essential amino acids that we can't get in enough quantities without a variety of sources, right? So, if we might be able to live for a little while off of these things, but we will certainly not thrive on them. So I'm not just actually picking on figs. And if you've seen this around and around about, don't shoot the person who posted it. It's a conversation starter, right? I'm doing this live because of what I've seen, but what I really don't want you guys seeing is like, oh, dates are super healthy. Um, they are good to have. A lot of people will use date sugar or use dates in their cooking, and those are better than maybe a refined sugar. But to be honest, depending on where your metabolic health is, that might not be an optimal option for you. So let's think about essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, like those linoleic and alpha linoleic acids. That's omega-3 and omega-6 um, fatty acids. I mean, you can survive. Let's just jump right into figs and just look at what they have for minerals and what they have available to them. You might be able to survive for limited time on figs and water, on certain vegetables and water, but you certainly wouldn't thrive, like I said. You'd eventually actually experience deficiency syndromes, muscle wasting, hormone dysfunction, moodiness, neurological decline, brain fog, all kinds of things that are just suggestive your body's just kind of not working right. I mean, would you ask a company who is producing some widget X to double their production rate and speed on half the amount of supplies, or even just try to keep going with their quota and not have enough supplies to make the widget? Our bodies need the supplies, and it doesn't need just a handful of really nice minerals. We have essential minerals, great, but there's a whole list of them, a whole list of vitamins, a whole list of good fats, right? So let's hop into not just why figs, but why vegetables alone can fall short, right? And I'm not knocking vegans, and yes, there we've got this great technology that allows us to supplement things that we can't get from our diet. If we've decided to eat in a certain way, we can fill in the gaps, but those gaps must be filled. So if we were talking about can you just live on figs, the answer is no. What do we have here? So vegetables all are an excellent source of carbohydrates and fiber. That's non-starch and resistant starch, fibers, when we think about those greens we just talked about, kale and watercress and spinach and Swiss chard and mushrooms and onions and all of the rainbows of veggies, squashes and things like that. They just don't have enough total calories to sustain the energy requirements that we have, right? So they're great for nutrients, not great for energy. um, for certain things, unless they are a high starch vegetable like a potato or fruits that can have a lot of the sugar or starches that break down into sugar. That's a source of energy, right? But protein. A lot of our most nutrient dense plants, like these figs, right? They have low amounts of protein or an incomplete amino acid profile. In fact, most vegetables do not have a full amino acid profile. There are a handful that do have all 9 essential amino acids. Um, but a date has a zero point 0.8 gram of protein, not enough to do anything with. So, and in fact, most vegetables have insufficient lysine, methionine, tryptophan for tissue maintenance. Tryptophan's important, right? Our body uses that to make serotonin and to make melatonin from that. So, really important for sleep. Fat. Um, there's trace plant fats in avocados, olives, and certain nuts and seeds and things like that, but not all of them. Um, in fact, in a fig itself, there's no fat in figs, right? And we absolutely need fat for our steroid hormone synthesis. And steroid hormones aren't just cortisol, the stress hormone, but it's also your estrogen, your progesterone, your cholesterol, your vitamin D, and your testosterone. Your sex hormones and vitamin D, those are steroid-based hormones that require cholesterol as backbone. And in order to make those in our body, which we can, we require incoming fat. Okay. Vitamins. Yeah, there's a wide variety of vitamins across the different vegetables and even in figs. But while they may have some, um, uh, they don't have any B12. Plants aren't a good source of B12 or vitamin D3. And sometimes they're even insufficient in niacin, thiamine. In fact, a lot of our best sources of B vitamins are from meat, which most people don't think about, but liver and beef and some organ meats and other even chicken has a really great they're really great sources of B vitamins. Um, and we need those, right? And then minerals, of course. We've got lots of minerals in our plants, but there are less zinc and selenium um, in plant sources, and those are important for our immune system and for our thyroid function, our energy balance. And a lot of times, some of the things that have the best minerals, like the seeds, nuts, seeds, legumes, grains, things that germinate, they tend to bind those minerals with phytates, which means we can't absorb them. So even though they're in the seed, we can't absorb them. They're going to go right out the other end because those seeds are trying to hold on to those minerals to fuel germination and to provide nourishment to the plant that is supposed to germinate. So we need to allow those things to sprout, or they need to ferment, or they need to soak, something that's going to activate the enzyme phytase to break down the phytates, Phy, Tates, phytates that are binding those minerals to release them to be available to us, right? So lots of things that have to happen. But ultimately, my point here is, okay, you cannot just live on figs. Figs don't have all of these essential nutrients that we have. They can be wonderful. They can be helpful for energy. They can be good in the right amount at the right time, mixed with the right other foods, right? So, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this workshop series I've been doing. In fact, we have the next one coming up next Tuesday on the sugar, stress, and sleep spiral. And we're going to be pulling together a lot of what we've already talked about. Um, you know, what are the good nutrients that we need in our body? How do we create a nutrient dense meal? How do we, eat at the right times and the right frequency to support optimal sleep and optimal energy efficiency and metabolic flexibility and burning fat when we're supposed to burn fat and burning sugar when we're supposed to burn sugar. Then we're going into the sleep and stress aspect and how do those affect us, these other non-food effects of our health, and how all of these things that we eat, even whether they're figs or not, and when, how they affect other more very important functions in our body, and how do those functions, how do we support those functions for optimal metabolic health, including weight loss, right? So if I were to pick some of the most beneficial vegetables that you really could theoretically almost live off of, that are very good contenders for health, much better options if I had to do just one plus water, that I would pick over a fig. Avocado would be there. Um, you know, they're, they provide healthy fats, clearly a lot of monounsaturated fat for energy. There's a good fiber, there's great potassium, there's magnesium, there's folate, there's a bit of protein in there, a small amount of protein, but you could definitely, there's vitamins, a lot of, it does still lack B12. It doesn't quite have enough protein. It doesn't have some of those essential fatty acids, the EPA and the DHA, those omega 3s, right? But there's some good stuff in there. A sweet potato, right? Rich in provitamin A, beta carotene. It's not the final form, but potassium, magnesium, some protein, some fiber. But again, that protein's incomplete. Lacks that fat soluble vitamins E and D and essential fats in a sweet potato. So we don't have the fat part. Um, Seaweed is really actually quite wonderful. It's high in iodine. It's got some omega-3 precursors like ALA, iron, calcium, has some trace B12 in certain algae. Um, um, Again, doesn't have that full protein spectrum, but you can get spirulina and chlorella um, as algae along with that seaweed like nori, dulse, and kelp, right? Um, they don't have that vitamin B12 and they're kind of low in calories. They don't really have any energy, but high in nutrients. Um, Sprouted legumes, right? Sprouted lentils, sprouted soy, microgreens, just like broccoli sprouts and alfalfa sprouts and sunflower seed sprouts. Those sprouts are absolutely incredible, actually, um, for powerhouses as far as vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and some amino acids. Still don't have enough fat and calorie density, right? So, um, you know, there is no complete nutrition from one plant or a date or a fig or anything like that. Um, so I just want to point out there's not going to be a single magic bullet food diet, okay? Even if it's kale or spinach, or even if it's just liver, or even if it's just avocado, that's just not going to work, right? These inevitably fail because they're missing certain essential nutrients. Our physiology is reliant on what it has been 10 and 15 and 20,000 years ago. We have not changed appreciably from genetics since then. Our body was designed for dietary diversity, roots and fruits and leaves and seeds and fats and animal source nutrients that complement each other. Okay. So, no, there's not a vegetable plus water combination that covers everything. Um, and if you wanted to do that and you wanted to come close to a full nutritional spectrum, you could combine spinach, kale, sweet potato, avocado, and sprouted lentils and some algae in there. Right? So you could probably get somewhat close. And I would say some hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are a complete protein with all the 9 essential amino acids anyway. And they have those omega-6 and omega-3s in balance and some fiber. So I would throw in some hemp seeds in there if I were to come up with a plant. So in any case, I just wanted to kind of give a chuckle about that, but also just bring us back around to this idea that um, we can get super wrapped up in vegan or carnivore or this way or that way. The bottom line is any of these things can be helpful for someone some of the time. It may be important that we have to go to one extreme or another when we're in our healing process, especially if our gut is seriously compromised. We may need to do something like that for a short period of time. But for the average person, those of us who are just trying to have healthy, happy hormones and good metabolic health and increase our longevity, We really want to understand all of the principles that I'm talking about in this workshop series of Keys to Energetic Health, everything that I talk about in the Custom Fit Wellness program, and about how your body works fundamentally and foundationally so that you can build from there and find exactly what you love and find that intersection of here's the lifestyle that I live. I like cooking. I don't like cooking. I don't have time. I'm busy, whatever. Here's the kind of movement I like and I don't like. Here's the kind of food that I like to eat and that I don't like to eat. And here's my ability to cook it, right? You can put all of that together and marry that up to foundations and have a life that really serves you from a health perspective. So I'm just really excited to be able to share this with you. And I want you to stick around with me. I'm going to be sending out some polls soon about what I'm doing with these lives moving forward. I want them to serve you. I might be asking on a weekly basis, what are the topics that I should cover this week? I want to do this with you. Um, I want to give you guys information that you find is helpful. So I'll be starting to ask you guys a lot more questions about what these should be about so that I can serve you well in this space, so that I can support you in becoming the boss of your own health so that you can be well in a way that is spearheading what I like to call the undiet culture. We don't do diets, we just do life, and we do life that supports health. We do life. That supports our longevity. So, and I am just thankful. So, I wasn't really able to look at the comments today, but I do want to let you know that if you've had any questions, they're out. I'm going to be answering them in the comments. Give me a hello. Tell me that you were here. Give me a hashtag replay if you were here. If you're interested in the next workshop coming up on how sugar, stress, and sleep sabotage our weight loss efforts and how to break that cycle and why it's so incredibly important and why we don't want to treat sleep as an optional add-on if we have enough time for it. All of those types of things. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, I want you to comment sleep, and I will invite you to that workshop. All right, you're all invited. And it's happening next Tuesday. So I'll see you soon. Take care.